A very pleasant morning to you all. Welcome back to the topic health and hygiene. Last class we had discussed that what is health and what are disease and the types of diseases. We had also discussed about the communicable and non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable, we had also discussed that these diseases do not transmit from an infected person to a healthy person. They may be congenital, that is present from the time of birth, and so on. That we'll discuss later on. Today we shall continue with the discussion of the communicable diseases which are transmitted from an infected person to a healthy person through contaminated air, water, food, physical contact, and vectors. So, the first example of some common viral diseases are influenza. This is very common, and at present we find that the COVID-19 or corona as we call also have some symptoms initially similar to that of influenza. Influenza is a very infectious viral disease. Now, it is caused by virus, RNA virus, that is myxovirus, and it spreads through droplet infection of an infected person through coughing, sneezing, or spit. That's why you find that you have also studied about, or in the media and everywhere, precautionary measures that are to be taken, especially when a person is suffering from the present pandemic disease COVID-19. Influenza also, you find that it spreads through droplet infection. Suppose like when a person sneezes or coughs, so what happens? The droplet infection contains virus along with moisture. The moisture evaporates and the virus, they are in the air, and when a healthy person inhales the air or very close to the infected person, it enters the body, and the incubation period may be for few days, and then the symptoms may show. So what are the symptoms of influenza? Generally you find that the symptoms which are shown initially are a slight discomfort, headache, body ache, and then it is followed by high fever. Got it? And the patient also suffers from running nose, cold, and frequent sneezing. So, and there is body ache, pain at the back, in the legs. So that is some of the symptoms that one can, that a person suffering from influenza shows. So what are the precautionary measures or control? In that case, what one has to do to isolate the person from the others, that is, if the other members, since it is a highly infectious disease, it may spread to different members of the family. So the patient has to be isolated from the rest of the family. Complete rest is required, and medicines can be given to lower the fever, and that is to give complete rest and comfort to the patient. Next important disease which I am going to discuss is measles. It is a common disease, very much infectious, caused by virus, and affects the children generally of 3 to 6 years of age. Now, measles is caused by a virus called as Rubella virus. Clear? Now, the incubation period is around 2 to 12 days. And what do we find? That is, how is it spread? Again, it can be due to droplet infection of an infected person through septum, or that is oral discharge. Now, what is the symptoms shown? Since it affects usually smaller children, you find that there is high fever accompanied by chills and the eruptions of small red spots on throughout the body, that is referred as rubella, like red rashes, and it gives a itching sensation, and the patient may be suffering from running nose, cold accompanied by chills, as I've already said earlier. And very much crucial about this disease is that it may lead to secondary infections such as pneumonia, and in that case it can be fatal also. So in this case, again, what is the prevention or the control one can do to isolate, to keep away from the rest of the members of the family, or to keep the patient in isolation, and to provide medicines such as crocin or paracetamol to lower the temperature, that is the high fever. And the person who is looking after the patient also has to be very, very careful, and the clothes, utensils, all which are being used, that is the bed sheets, should be frequently changed, or that is changed regularly, and should be sterilized. Clear? And one more common viral disease which is very much prevalent, that is chikungunya. Got it? Now this chikungunya also is very infectious, and it is caused, that is due to the bite of an infected person, that is a bite of a mosquito, bite of a mosquito of an infected person. So these mosquitoes act like vectors. What are vectors? These are organisms which carry the germs, that is the pathogen, and transmit it to a healthy person, but it itself remains are not affected by it. So these Aedes mosquito, when they bite the infected person, that germ of chikungunya or the virus enters the body of the mosquito, and when it bites a healthy person, it is transmitted to it. Got it? Now what are the symptoms that we find of a chikungunya person? In this case, it is like usual, that is headache, body ache, and very high fever, and there is acute joint pain or muscle pain. Clear? Now the fever subsides after few days, but the pain in the joints and at the back continues or persists for a very long duration, and it is very infectious and can spread easily from one person to another. So proper precautionary preventive methods can be taken in the form that this mosquito Aedes, there are two species which usually spread of the Aedes mosquito, that is Aedes aegypti. Now what happens, this Aedes mosquito, they usually thrive in clean water. Got it? And they're active during the daytime. Usually we say that the mosquitoes are active during night time, but this particular species, Aedes mosquito, they are active during the daytime, and they thrive in clean water like flower pots, vases, coolers. Got it? Plastic cans. So proper precautionary measures should be taken, that the water of the cooler is being changed regularly, and the flower pots, it should not be over, that is too much water should be added, or the vases should regularly, the water should be changed regularly, and spraying insecticides or using mosquito repellents so that the mosquito do not breed. So that proper precautionary measures has to be taken. Next we have the Tango virus. Got it? It is also called as breakbone or dandy fever, because in this case it is also very infectious disease, and it is fatal also. It causes contractions of the joints, muscles, That's why it is very painful. That is, the person has acute pain, muscular pain, especially at the joints. Now it is also caused by RNA virus. Now in this case what happens, like usually it is caused by the bite of a mosquito, Aedes species, of an infected person. And the symptoms what we find are usually the high fever accompanied by chills. But in this case, what do we find? That is joint pain, acute joint pain, and low blood platelets, low count of blood platelets. So usually it is not like recognizable that a person may be suffering from dengue virus, but when the blood platelets count are being taken, in that case, if it is very low, it can be due to dengue virus. Clear? And then what do we find? That is very small fine red rashes appearing on the body, and there can be nasal nose bleeding also. Got it? So it can be fetal also. So this also is a very infectious disease. And like usually, what are the preventive methods? This, since it is an Aedes mosquito, it also thrives in clean water, and therefore proper precautionary measures should be taken so that the breeding of the mosquitoes is prevented by changing the waters, but not allowing the water to collect, since it thrives in clean water. Then use of insecticides or spraying of the fumigants, all these that can avoid the breeding of this mosquito should be done. And that is the if one sees these symptoms of the dengue, one should immediately first go in for the blood test to find the blood platelets count. And if it is low, then it is very crucial or dangerous for the patient, and it can be fatal also. So we have discussed about few of the important viral diseases. Next class we shall be discussing about the virus diseases, that is bacteria and protozoans. So communicable diseases, also known as infectious diseases. You may be asked questions like in 1-mark questions, what is a causative agent of measles? Causative agent means the scientific name of the virus, and the symptoms, the precautionary measures. The incubation period means what? Once the virus enters the body, it requires time to multiply. So in that case, it is referred as incubation period. That is the time period for the germs or the pathogens. It can be virus, bacteria, to enter the body, and then the time taken it to multiply and show the symptoms. That is called as incubation period. It differs from disease to disease. Measles, if a child is infected with measles, that is, it remains immune to it throughout its life. Chikungunya, it is very common in the Indian subcontinent as well as in the African subcontinent. Chikungunya and dengue virus both are caused by the vectors besides in dengue virus, besides having high fever, body ache and joint pains, it can, and other symptoms are vomiting, nausea, nose bleeding, appearance of very fine red rashes on the skin. That is indication. Break bone because it causes very pain spasms at the muscles and the joints. If you have any doubts in the questions, answers of the previous chapters that we have done, you can write in the comment section. And children, some of you are asking me that whether you all have to use a practical copy or a rule copy. You can use practical copies. In some of the chapters, the diagrams have been given, so you can take a small practical copy. That's all for today.